Thank you, Daphne. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for caring about winter cities. A lot of people don't, or think of winter as a time to just stay indoors and ignore it all. Uh, but you folks are different. So, we're all here to talk about winter friendly cities, principles for making cities friendlier during winters for people of all ages and abilities. So, thanks for having me, and we'll get right into it. So, like Daphne said, we I my name is Jane. I work for a group called 880 Cities, and we're driven by a simple but we think powerful question: that what if everything we did in our cities was great for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old? Then it would be great for all. Pardon the blurry image, but our mission is to ignite action and challenge the status quo to create healthier and more equitable and sustainable cities for all people. And we do this by bringing people together to transform both mobility and public space. And we've been doing this for many years across many different cities all across the world. And these some inspo images at the bottom for all the diversity of work that we do. So, what brings us here today is that we are quote unquote experts of winter cities. We've written the playbook on winter placemaking with our amazing American partners, AARP. And what drove this guide is that we really wanted to build excitement about winter. We wanted to provide tools and ideas for community members to do some winter placemaking using an equity based approach and to inspire communities of all sizes to adopt a winter lens in all planning work. So, when we began to write this guide, we discovered that there isn't actually a definition of what winter placemaking is. So, that was our first step to define what it is. So, winter placemaking is a means to re envision the ways that public spaces are created and used in winter in order to foster social connection, physical activity, and the many benefits of a vibrant public realm all year round. And we really wanted to focus on the benefits. When we think winter, we think like terrible times. We think slipping on ice and getting stuck in the snow and your bus isn't coming because the snow and traffic and all that terrible stuff. But we know that there are benefits and good stuff about winter. So we wanted to focus on that. So the guide is driven by three benefits of winter, which are, it's a great opportunity and time to combat social isolation, some really great health opportunities. Folks are often isolated if the sidewalks aren't plowed, but how can placemaking address those aspects? So, focusing on health, focusing on the economy, supporting local business, and supporting social opportunities. How can winter placemaking create connections and opportunities for cultural celebration and joy? So, in the guide, there's four pillars, and this is how the guide flows you through all the great examples and precedents of communities that have really embraced what winter mobility can be. It can be fun, it can be accessible, but it needs to be a priority. Pedestrians need to be a priority, not just cars, plowing for cars. So we know that winter is a fun time for winter fun and programming. That's a given. But how else do communities embrace winter warmth and really invest in winter health and resources? So pillar 3 and 4 really get into that in the winter placemaking guide. And we wanted to focus on the whole broad spectrum of the winter experience because when we think about winter, we often think about this. And this is in Scarborough, of course. This is what it looks like trying to get to the bus stop. But we know that winter can be fun and can be accessible and can be vibrant if winter placemaking is embraced. So, what does public life look like in winter? What is needed for public life to thrive during winter? So, we have the four principles that support winter public life, and they are movement, light, spark, and warmth. So, warmth is goes without saying. To be outside, to enjoy the outdoors, you need to be able to stay warm. And there's very many different fun installations that can help with this. Of course, there's s'mores, there's heaters, but look, there's creative bus stops and people will always be outdoor and active and eager and want to do those cold plunges, but providing a sauna or some sort of warming area is a pillar of winter warmth placemaking. That also means DIY fires, fire pits, Pizza ovens, we see some really great inspiration from some communities in Thorncliffe Park who have a park cafe and who do outdoor cooking. And, despite the seasons, that culture and community can still thrive with winter warmth. Second pillar is movement. Standing still, you're going to be cold. So get moving, but ensuring that active transportation is still able to function amongst winter is a very important priority. These are some photos from Scandinavia who do winter really well. In North America, we always hear the excuse that, well, we can't cycle because it snows. The Danes and the Swedes, they don't take this excuse and they bike in all seasons. But North Americans are doing some really great things. This is an example from Winter Mission, in which we partnered with the city of Buffalo to do some outdoor yoga programming in the winter. And being forced to stay outside is not what winter placemaking is. Winter placemaking can be about indoor spaces as well and institutions. This is a library who is doing a gear share rental, just as you would take out a book. You'd take out some skis, you take out some snowshoes. Winter can be a fun time for movement and can be affordable and accessible if all of our institutions embrace this sort of policy. This is a growing trend amongst libraries, but it's a really fantastic way to make winter warmth and fun and movement all happen at once. So, of course, winter light. We see the fact that the sun sets at about 4 p.m. today. We often see that as a negative, but there's so many, like many cities across the world, who one, don't get extreme cold, don't get snow, and don't have this opportunity for darkness earlier. It's all about reframing the mindset from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. Sun sets earlier, so we can embrace all sorts of different winter lighting strategies. This is in Montreal. These are kinetic seesaws, and this both brings in the winter movement and the winter light. So spark, of course, you have to have that spark. That's what placemaking is all about. Creating that fun, unique, place-based approach based on play, based on movement and art. Something fun and unique and tangible, something that gets you outdoors. So all of that is great. Those are the principles. You need to be able to stay warm and move around and have some sort of, you know, active activity that brings you outdoors. But how do you actually do winter placemaking? Where do you even start? So, in the winter placemaking guide, we created this lovely snowflake image to tell us about all the stages that we move through in order to create some really great equity and locally based winter placemaking. So, we'll start at the stop. Oh my God, start at the top of our star. Sorry, by taking an asset-based approach. Now, what does that look like? So, when we all often think of public spaces in winter, we don't think many assets. We think negatively. The sidewalks are covered, the streets are covered. But this is a really great example of the Jibba Jabba Rail Jam in Houghton, Michigan, who embrace their physical assets. It started by a group of volunteers who brought all the snow from their front driveways into the downtown, and they created tobogganing luges, they created a ski competition, and it has since blossomed into what is now a Red Bull sponsored event called the Jibba Jabba Rail Jam. It's still going on. And this is just, a lighter, quicker, cheaper way to invest in fun public spaces outdoors in winters. It's a boon to the local economy, and it's created basically with $0, but just a lot of community passion and volunteer approach. And it's all about embracing what you have at the ready. Smaller communities like Houghton, Michigan, might not have a big central park, might not even have a network of sidewalks, but what they do have is a hill and snow, and those are enough assets during winter. So moving along in our process here. So we took an asset-based approach. We realized that we have some really great things at the ready. We just needed to mobilize them with some volunteer power and some creativity. And now we need to think about basing our placemaking on the need to advance equity. And what does that look like? Well, another great example, also highlighted in the Winter Placemaking Guide, is from Perry, Iowa. So it's another smaller community, and they've really leaned into their individual and cultural assets to make winter a warmer, funner, and more accessible and inclusive time of year. So the Perry Latino Festival was a smaller event that happened in the church on the outskirts of town. But when the church closed down, the festival had nowhere to go. So, in partnering with the town, the Perry Latino Festival blossomed into Los Posadas, which is a biblical recreation of a Christmas story in which they go from storefront to storefront, caroling. There's food, there's warmth, there's light, there's movement, there's fire pits. And so, by embracing this cultural asset that already existed, by bringing this event into the main town, by really accepting and embracing and welcoming all types of inclusivity, and activating this program in the evening, we really saw a way to just make the community a nicer, more welcoming place, but also activating the downtown core. So we took an asset-based approach. We advanced equity by embracing all the diversity of Perry, Iowa. And now we're talking about engaging community at all levels. How do you even find out what community needs from placemaking? What do community need during winter to be active, to stay connected with each other? Well, in a great little town called Wells, British Columbia, population of just 200, the community, in partnership with some other amazing folks, set out to do some seniors engagement. So they wanted to see what older adults needed from their community during winter. So the town tried to meet this goal of engaging and hearing what older adults need with two approaches. So they wanted to snow clear in the winter and they needed benches in the summer. All the community got together, basically all of them, and met with pins and markers to sketch their daily walking routes and to put pins and points on those routes where they felt they might need to take a break. This would determine the paths that are needed to be cleared for snow and where benches would need to be in the summer. So, engaging with the community can look and feel in many different ways. In a town of 200, it's probably easier to gather folks together to hear what they need. But in bigger communities, this is in Buffalo, going to the community through a pop up is ideal to hear what folks need and feel and experience during winter. So, from all that great pop up information, you saw these boards. We were asking, what do you need from winter? What is winter like to you in Buffalo? How do you move through your community and what could be better? From all those great questions that we asked, we created some graphs that we heard. Winter in Buffalo is kind of harsh and long and negative, but there's still a good percentage of folks that said it's actually beautiful and amazing. We asked, how would you rate the safety and accessibility of sidewalks in the winter? And it was okay, not great. We also asked, how would you rate the maintenance of accessibility and parks in the winter? And once again, it was okay, not great. So, from all this great data that we collected by going to the community through pop ups, going to storefronts, sitting inside of where people gather, like community centers, we came up with some community priorities based off what the community told us. So, we heard there needs to be better snow management, winter accessibility and comfort need to be prioritized, and winter events and activities are needed to get the community out and connected, and of course, prioritizing inclusivity. So this brings us to the test out community ideas and gather feedback. So we collected all the data, we gathered the feedback, but how do we test out these ideas? We need to take quick action. And we did this through this amazing winter mission project where we thought of creating micro grants that were available to block clubs and community-based organizations to implement sidewalk plowing strategies on a really small scale. So the goal of this was to create inclusivity, allow people to walk to and from their resources, to and from institutions without having the sidewalk be a barrier. We wanted to invest in intergenerational volunteerism and, of course, overall accessibility. So from the data, we found that this was one of the priorities for the community. So we tested it out. We took some quick action off what we heard they need. And event number two, or project number two, was a series of winter bashes or events. So we heard people feel kind of isolated during the winter months. So with all of that great information, we know that people want to get out and have a good time. So some winter bashes took place strategically in public spaces, including a few different parks, and in total over 200 community members and 36 service providers participated. And you can see the fun Winter Bash flyer that we created for this. So, from all that great data, once again, we heard and what informed project number 3. So, when we talk winter placemaking, there's often the idea that it's just about making outside fun and interactive, and you can, go on a teeter totter that lights up. How great! But there's some practical aspects of it all too. So, we heard from folks that some of their homes aren't warm enough during winter. So, our project number 3 was some winter weatherization kits that were distributed to over 150 community members. And of course, this included providing better insulation, so some insulation equipment, some window shrink elements, and all of this is to provide better home energy conservation and to keep homes warmer. So when we talk about placemaking, it is fun. It can be a series of winter bashes, but it's about what makes communities and places and people happy, healthy, want to stay in their community all throughout the season. So we're almost through our snowflake diagram here. We took an asset-based approach. We saw our physical and cultural assets. We based placemaking on the need to advance equity, as we heard with the Los Posadas example. We engaged community at all levels. We spoke about Wells, BC, and we spoke about Buffalo, about popping up in storefronts to hear how winter is functioning for community. We tested out ideas through those 3 projects, and now we are at this final strategizing stage. So I encourage you all to look up the Winter Mission project, in which we created all sorts of learnings and a winter city strategy for each community. So we spoke about Buffalo, but we also did a Winter Mission project with Leadville, Colorado, and Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So the Winter City strategies are total compilations of all the amazing things that we collected, all the amazing things that we did, all the great data on what we heard community needed, and how to move forward. So I encourage you to check this all out and check out the Winter Cities Toolkit, all about making winter cities work for all. I will pause here for some questions and answers, and then I have some fun activities for us.
Thank you so much, Jayne. So if anyone does have any questions, feel free to unmute, or you could also type it in the chat.
Yeah, actually, I had a question. So, just connecting back to the mission of 80 cities, how does the winter placemaking and the different aspects within the winter city that you work with, can serve to both an 8-year-old as well as an 80-year-old?
That is a great question. I can tell you thought that one out. Well, great idea. So, 880 Cities is all about all ages, not just 8 and 8-year-old. It's everyone and anyone in between. And, um, it's about accessibility, it's about independence. And winter really puts a cramp into that. You're not so comfortable to have your younger child go out and cross the street or go to school when maybe there's barriers and sight lines from snowbanks, and it's a slip hazard for older adults who are apprehensive to get outside. So winter cities that experience heavy snow, rain, ice, all of the above, should really be prioritizing younger folks and older adults who are the most vulnerable and at risk of, you know, accidents and all sorts of issues that happen with slip and falls and all the terrible things that happen from like car and road violence. But it's all about accessibility and age friendliness. You folks are from Toronto and the area. You see your signs on parks that say this park is not maintained during winter. And that's basically saying that we don't care, or we don't take care of our spaces for people who need that extra care to access these spaces for half the year. So I think winter cities and advocating for age friendliness really align.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree that I think safety is definitely one of the main concerns that we should definitely focus on.
Now we will be moving on to the announcement of the winner for the Tag a Friend giveaway, who will be receiving a $10 gift card from Spotify, Indigo, and Tim Hortons. So there is a spinner that we will be using. I think Shiho can spin the wheel. Yeah. Okay, so the winner is one of Asian Court. Congratulations. So I think we will be contacting you about the prize. Or I'm not sure if the person who submitted that is in the meeting right now, but if they are, feel free to send us a message. And the next slide is about volunteer hours, which I'll pass on to Daniel.
Yeah, so just a reminder that from attending this webinar, you receive 1 volunteer hour. So please email your volunteer hour form to hella@urbanminds.co by December 20th.
And we'd like to remind you about our upcoming events. We have the One Up Connect webinar number 5 about the third place and where to find it, happening January 10th at the same time, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., as well as our annual One Up conference, which is happening the weekend after March break, which is March 23rd and 24th. So we do invite you guys to all participate as you get to network with like-minded students and meet industry professionals. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. And if you haven't already, make sure to check our social media. Our TikTok and Instagram is at One Up Toronto. And we also have our website and email listed here. As well, we have our Discord channel that you can join to stay up to date with our events. So feel free to scan the QR code. And with that, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you all.